Hey everyone, welcome to another great Brand Innovators Livecast series. I'm E.B. Moss and I'm the SVP of our content and community team here at Brand Innovators. Now we want to welcome you to our community and share some great content on this challenger brands and the next generation of D2C livecast. I'm really thrilled to kick off this event because of a particularly awesome lineup of marketers and media executives. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping for you. I want to thank all of the marketers, the sponsors, and you, the audience, for helping me make this event possible, and all of Brand Innovators. Now, throughout the event, you'll be able to use the little Q&A widget as well as the chat widget at the bottom of your screen. And we really want to encourage you to engage with our speakers and other attendees by using those widgets throughout the program. Of course, if you would like to tweet or anything like that and encourage others to join us, you can use hashtag BI Livestream. Yay. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Beth Mock. She is the Chief Consumer Officer of TrueCar, and their moderator, Valerie Vespa of Outfront Media. Hello, everyone.
How's everyone? How are you? Great to be here.
Thank you. Hi. And we made it through all of our tech challenges, and I'm going to let you take it away.
All of you know what my technical challenges are right, leading up to this. My gosh, I was in the PC hell of installing updates, like, of course, right before this. So I'm glad to honestly be here right now, and so glad
We're glad to see you.
Thanks, Evie. And so glad to be here with Beth, my dear friend, talking about what you've been up to at TrueCar. I'm Valerie Vespa, VP of Brand Partnerships at Outfront Media. And, I was really kind of excited not only to be speaking here with Beth, who is a friend of mine, we go back, but I think the theme of this discussion around challenger brands and the next generation of DTC is kind of near and dear to my heart, just because from like a challenger brand perspective, and I'm just going to, talk a little bit about my history being in out of home. We've always had from like the Ubers and the Lyfts kind of like doing the land grab for out of home space. And even most recently, there's a company that we partner with called ClickUp, and they had a billboard, and one of their challenger brands like bought a board right below them and like poking fun at their creative. And she posted it on LinkedIn and had a whole commentary about it. And there was this whole back and forth, and it's like, who's winning this fight? I mean, I love that stuff. So we've been, in out of home space, we've been doing this for quite some time, but from a DTC standpoint, even more so, like, I think, the years of like, the days of Casper, when there were like 5 people working there, Casper Mattress, or TaskRabbit, where they were like, really digital focused. And they're like, we're just not getting this kind of customer acquisition we're looking for. And they entered the space in out of home, and we really helped them solve some of those troubles around customer acquisition. And it like led me to, and I think the industry as a whole, from out of home perspective, to understand like how impactful the channel can be at not only doing brand awareness, which we know we can do super well, but like also how we can impact like lower funnel stuff. So like for me, this is like a really fun conversation. And I think, the point about it being next gen DC, I think there are a lot of nuances and interesting challenges that I'd love to talk about from your perspective being at TrueCar. So enough about me. Nobody wants to hear from me. We want to hear about Beth and what she's up to. So Beth, like, can you just explain like, kind of a bit about your history, how you landed at this gig at TrueCar and kind of everything in between?
Yeah, well, I'll spare you the gory details. But first off, thank you for having me today. This was, I was very excited to be asked to join the conversation. And then, when I found out that you, Val, were going to be my moderator and my person, I was even more overjoyed. So once again, thank you, Brand Innovators, for making it happen. I think this is a very interesting conversation because, when you think about, and I'll get to me in a second, but when you think about D2C, you think about companies that are new, that are disrupting the norm. And I think what's really interesting about TrueCar is that, it's not new. We act as a startup, but we're about 17 years old. And so we have evolved and reinvented and, have always kind of held ourselves as a disruptor. And I think now even more so than the more recent history, disruption is really coming back into our vocabulary. And I think the big thing is that you don't have to be a startup to think in this way, to act in this way, and to really believe that you can make change happen. Even if you are, what may feel as old and stodgy being public, it's actually not. We actually have a really strong, thriving environment, and we're growing and learning and reaching new things every day. So to me, it's been a really interesting and fun journey over the last year and a half of coming to the brand side. And so a little bit on me, I started, way back when. We don't need to know exactly the date, but, really more so on the agency, brand agency side. And, spent the majority of my time and a few dabbles in sales, but the majority of my time really understanding consumers, behavioral elements of those consumers, and how to help brands connect with those consumers more overtly. Now, of course, I've taken many, turns and twists and, uphills and downhills, but it's always been, more of a digital bend to the way that I've approached things. And I think that's what's exciting about what we're doing here at TrueCar. Not only are we, a digital platform, and that's what we do. We are a tech company that, works within the automotive space. And we are a tech platform. And I say that very specifically because while we are TrueCar and we do enable consumers to connect with dealers to find the right vehicle at the right price, we actually don't own any assets, any vehicles. We are asset-light company. And I think that's what makes us unique in the way that we look at our property, is that we do emulate, we do follow many of the same structural goals as, say, other two-sided marketplaces. So if you think about Etsy, you think about Uber, you think about, any of these gig economy, platforms that have changed the way we do things, that's how we look at ourselves as well. And, I think from that standpoint, it gives us the opportunity to have different types of conversations with different stakeholders, but it also helps us stay true to our goal of creating a really fair, a really easy, transparent, and efficient way for people to transact when they want to buy a vehicle or even sell a vehicle. So to me, it's really exciting to be here talking about this, because it's not always what people expect TrueCar to be talking about. So
Sure. I mean, it's so interesting. Of course, we're going off script, because this just brought me to other questions that I have for you. You think about the last couple of years with COVID and a lot of traditional brands, for lack of a better term, getting into the DTC space because they kind of had to, and saw that need. You're saying that you've been around since 2005, right? It's had you always had that plight of being a digital first sort of organization? Has that always been since inception the way, what was your transformation to kind of get to that point? I think that's.
Yeah. I look at it in 3 chapters. And so the first chapter was the launch of TrueCar. And it was really born out of the ability to provide consumers with a very transparent price on a vehicle, right? So very consumer focused. Now, again, if we think about it from a digital standpoint, we've, like I said, we're asset light. We've never owned any vehicles. So at the end of the day, we've always been a digital platform. And so our mindset has always been, how does the virtual or digital space actually help us do our job better and be able to connect the dots better? The second chapter of our lives is when we kind of swung the pendulum to the other direction and really started to focus on dealer needs and being able to deliver very high quality, high closing, shoppers, and, getting them into a vehicle. And now we're in our third chapter, which is really squarely in the middle of those two, either side of the spectrum, where we are the enabling technology that helps connect consumers in being able to find the vehicle that they want, build a price or build a deal that works for them, find the price that they can pay, and then ultimately fulfill the vehicle in the way that they want to, whether it is going into the dealership to, sign and pick up the keys, or through a fully digital online experience through our product that we're piloting right now in Florida called TrueCar Plus. And that's where you can fulfill your vehicle all the way through to delivery at your home. So, I think we've seen kind of all the sides, and now we see that consumers really, like, this is table stakes, right? Like, this is what everybody does. I know that we talk a lot and we talk via our phone, right? And like everything I do, I just booked flights this morning real quickly while my husband was on his desktop or on his laptop. I was on my phone. We're standing next to each other. Like, everything we all do is from our phone. And so why would buying a car or any kind of vehicle be any different? Why wouldn't we be able to do that? And our thought is, why isn't it us? Why wouldn't it be us first? So we're making it happen.
I love it. I know, I love it. Because that process, I can imagine, runs the gamut in terms of experiences that people can share about human interactions at dealers or whatever, paperwork and loans and whatever. It's exhausting to kind of think about all the places where there's friction points, right? And you're kind of trying to alleviate that, right?
Yes.
And I kind of want to get into that, but as far as like, how are you creating this really truly satisfactory marketplace for both sides? But before we get into that, we're talking about challenger brands here. So can you kind of explain what makes TrueCar really a challenger in this environment?
Well, I think one of the big things, and I've said it a few times, but one of the big things is we don't control the hearts and minds of both sides of our marketplace, right? And so I think some of the challenges come in developing trust for both sides, developing that product that people want to interact with, and that we actually live up to the expectations of that consumer and of that dealer. So I think from the standpoint that we've got a lot of other competitors out there dabbling in this space with different digital retailing tools and technology, and even ownership and full ownership of the entire experience of buying a vehicle. And because we have different challenges, we have different milestones that we have to hit, that do create a different landscape for us and different hurdles. And so, while we could look at our competitors like a Carvana and take some cues, and our DTC OEMs like a Tesla, we also want to make sure that we're delivering a product that continues to drive greater sales for our dealer partners. So how do we play a role in helping them expand their digital footprint and the ability for them to continue to succeed? So like, it's just I would also say from a challenger standpoint that we've had to overcome some of those reputational challenges of being one side or the other. And so we've had to regain the trust of consumers and regain the trust of our dealer partners in our network. And so that, it's not just building a cool new technology. We've actually kind of had to unravel some of the things that, many of our competitors haven't had to do. And so I think us approaching it from a challenger standpoint actually it gives us energy, it gives us perspective, and it gives us some creativity on how to actually do things a bit differently, and not just wash, rinse, and repeat, or maybe tinker or tweak, but it's really the opportunity for us to say, okay, what really do we need to do? How do we actually make this so much more meaningful and superior than anything else out there? Like, let's do this. Like there's no stopping us and no holding us back from that level of creativity and collaboration inside of our walls.
So you think from either like both perspectives on both sides, just listening to your consumer and then listening to the dealers, and then kind of making the platform exactly what they're,
Oh my gosh, listening is so key. You know, for a long time in many brands, you know, I've worked with several several more than that over the years, but you know, many brands, and I think this is also the change of the way people and brands are approaching communicating with each other. But I think the big thing is we don't have the luxury to tell consumers what they should want and what they should read and how they should see us. We have to listen to what consumers want, how they are approaching their lives. How do we fit into their lives versus trying to intercept and hope and pray that they're going to like us, right? We have to really be thoughtful about our approach, and instead of just listening and thinking, oh, okay, well, we hear you. Actually, let's actually think about what people are saying and hear them and act on what they've asked for. And that would also, you know, I think too, like you don't want to always be kind of being reactive to people's wants. But after a while, you get really good at being a little anticipatory. You get really good at kind of being proactive. And, you know, if we're smart, which I feel we are actually looking into the future to see how technology changes people's behaviors, changes people's approach to purchasing, right? Think about how different even a couple of years ago, how we purchased things. Like I don't ever go into a store.
Right.
Even for the silliest of things.
I mean, the idea of using Apple Pay to buy a car is just like, you know.
It is a little mind blowing.
It is.
But it's doable, right?
Yeah.
You can do this. So
interesting. I know like this is sort of like a random thought that came up because like from a digital first kind of business where there's no necessary brick and mortar, the customer service side of things from the consumer perspective, I think must be kind of really interesting to solve for. Like I think about lately calling airlines to get some sort of information and, you know, you're on hold for an hour and a half, you know? So from your perspective, how have you kind of addressed, because again, buying a car is like, you kind of have to, you know, help them through that education, all of this stuff. So talk about that a bit.
Yeah. And I think the big thing that's different about us too is, again, we enable people to fulfill the need of or the desire of purchasing a vehicle. We don't facilitate the buy. We don't direct someone or you know, guide them into which dealer to go to. And you know, we help them through. So a couple of things. And if we think about customer service in that broader sense, it is not only the team, our contact center team that, you know, has inbound calls around concerns that they might have and the experience they have with us, but it's also the things that happen on either end, right? It's our ability to ensure that our platform helps educate consumers as they come in and experience, you know, whether it's discovery of a vehicle, you know, they're not sure exactly what vehicle they want, and understanding the process to go through to find the vehicle and build that deal, all the way through to how our dealers are connecting with our consumers and understanding, and the dealers understanding what we're doing with them and for them, so they don't have to do as much of the heavy lifting later on in the process. And so, you know, we are maniacally focused on learning about who comes to our site, why they're coming there, what are the differences in the way one consumer user acts if they come in through paid search versus coming in through, you know, word of mouth and you know, an organic you know, search, right? So, you know, how do you, or just typing in truecar.com, right? And so how do we manage people's expectations and be able to deliver something really cool and awesome and, empowering, if we don't actually continue to look at what they're doing, ask them questions, dive a little bit deeper, maybe even understand a little bit of the hidden agenda behind the why or the need of their next purchase. So, again, we're constantly surveying consumers. We're constantly asking questions. And also like our internal team, our crew members. So we're called the TrueCar crew. Oops, as you can see here, we're focused in developing new ways to create an environment where our crew members are a valuable resource in feedback of the product itself. So, I think it's, that each of us are the best advocates we possibly could have as a brand. And so how do we continue to nurture that part of the relationship that we have with our product? And also, again, be able to ensure that we are listening to the voice of the consumer in a way that, takes it from every level, from inside to, the next circle to ultimately to how word of mouth helps us. And so, I think the fun part about this is that it's never a dull moment. People are always moving and shaking and changing things up and creating new ways for us to approach the problems they might have in this process. And so, again, we're always looking for solves.
I mean, it just sounds like, again, 2005, it's weird. It's not that long ago, but it's long enough ago to be like, you're an established brand here. And I think, just, it seems like you guys have still been able to keep that nimble kind of startup feel as far as understanding first party data, listening to your consumers in ways that like other businesses maybe didn't anticipate for that back in 2005. So it's kudos to you, because I think that's being able to evolve, and be sort of a couple steps ahead.
Well, we have a really smart crew of people. I will tell you, when I first came on board in October of 2020, as you can imagine, how interesting that is, of starting a job and, in a time where so many things were uncertain, not only in business and in automotive, but in the world, and then not being able to meet anybody.
Right.
And, in person. And so, for the first 9 months, almost 10 months of my time at TrueCar, this was how I interacted. And I know there's a ton of people out there who have, had very much the same experience. But it was a bit eye-opening for me. And I think what made my transition from being in the kind of the middleman world, right, in the agency side of the world to a brand side, is the fact that everyone here really, and it happened in the interview process. And I'm sorry, I'm going now into a different rabbit hole, Val, but I think what really was interesting to me is that I had a moment before I started engaging with TrueCar to really take stock of the values that I wanted in my next position, in my next company, and with my next, group of colleagues and peers. And what I found with TrueCar is that the team and the crew at that point really lived to some of the key values. And I was like, wow, that's unusual. There's something to be said for that. And let's see what this is all about. And I think that's what made me most excited about coming here, and not being just a disruptor in this new mindset, but truly coming to an organization that held those things very dear. And I think it's also led us, back to the smart people part, it's really led us to look at who we bring on board, not through being like-minded or, in our world, lookalikes, right? It's actually being valued. And so not only does that give us the opportunity to, look at things and interview people and ask questions from a very different base. It's not about the experience, because boy, I hope if what you have on your resume is actually true, I really do hope that, and I'm going to, hope that, that I can trust that is accurate. But on the other side is, do you have the same regard for people? Do you have the same approach to communications and being straightforward and honest? And, again, making sure that when we look at opportunities to bring people in, and boy, have we ever, we actually did go through the Great Resignation, and, we were stripped down to our bare bones, and now we are building, I can say it even more specifically from my specific team in, all communications and marketing and creative and customer service. I have an incredible team, and it's because we all came together because we have some common ground, and the common ground isn't just experience, it's who we are as humans. So to me, it's just like, that makes me excited every single day to go to work, because I can't wait to work with my
I love that
crew. And that's not like, and that is not like blowing smoke. This is truly how I feel like every day going to work.
That's so good. I'm so happy for you, because you deserve that. You're the best. And I like, because I was looking, I'm such a creeper. Like, I think it's the inherent salesperson in me that, like, I was on your like LinkedIn. I'm like, I know you well, but like, I'm like looking at your activity. That's like one part of my creep that I do. And I was like, you're just hiring like, bananas, like, and I guess, what can get concerning, again, you guys had gone through that, probably the resignation thing, and then back to hiring again. And that's so exciting and wonderful to hear. Like, how do you, again, like, I think your point there about like valued humans, finding those similar sets, like, is just crucial to keeping the culture and everything so strong. And I think, what we've learned through all of this is, culture is so important to everything, right?
Yeah, because boy, you bring in one individual and they don't, really follow that same kind of thinking or mindset or even belief in the work that you're doing is meaningful, it can completely
throw off the entire,
absolutely. It upsets the apple cart to take something from my grandmother.
It's hard. I know humans are hard. We're complicated.
Certainly.
So I was more a part of my other, creeping that I was doing. So your tagline is terrific: car buying shaped to your life. And kind of going back to that sort of mantra of like, your mission and your overarching purpose. Like, I kind of want to get into that a little bit. And then, I look at car in your True Car Crew design and the brand, the car part is colorful. And I think that that's not random. There's some intention in there. So, I'm guessing from a purpose and DEI perspective, there's sort of like this is for everyone type of thing. So we're going to talk, there's probably like 12 questions there, but.
Yeah. And let's see if I can hit them all in one.
If you need to reiterate any part of that 12 part, I can.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, I mean, I think our new tagline is really special, to be honest. And it's not just a tagline that we are using in public, marketing environments. Like, it's something that really is meaningful to us as an organization. And, when we first started putting it together, and I have an incredible marketing team who really thought of this and put so much effort and heart into developing what car buying shaped to your life actually means. And, we're proud to celebrate that it really is for you as an individual, no matter where you live, no matter how much you make, no matter what type of car you have, no matter what your economic situation is, your zip code, it doesn't matter. It matters the fact that you have the ability to have the freedom that mobility and owning a vehicle actually can provide to you. And so, and again, whether you need it or you want it, it doesn't matter to us. We want to make sure that you are able to do the things that are necessary in your life, not mine, not the company's, right? Not in my CEOs or my
profit.
competitors.
Yeah, right.
But it's truly in how consumers can use this platform to meet their needs at that time in their lives. And I think that's the beauty of this, is the fact that our platform continues to evolve to speak to that. But it's also in how we are approaching, even internally, the programs that we have to create, greater inclusivity. And I kind of giggle a little bit because I look at our logo right now, and it's so on from a celebratory Pride Month moment. But I think it's and that I think was an amazing byproduct of really smart teams prior to me coming on board to think about what our logo could mean, beyond just being a logo for a car buying service, right? And I think there was the heart that was put into the development of this rebranding. And mind you, we looked a lot like everybody else. We had a white and blue kind of thing, and a little bit of a different typeface, but it really it didn't speak to who we were becoming. And I think at that time, maybe we did and maybe we didn't. Again, it was before me, so I can't take any credit for the beautiful logo that we have. But what we've done with it and what we'll continue to do with it really gives us a lot of energy and excitement, because it keeps things bright, it keeps things vibrant, and it also gives us a ton of flexibility in the way that our brand comes forward. Now, that doesn't mean that we change things, only blue or only purple or only white. Like, we try to be really true. And in fact, my creative team, they are the brand ambassadors, and sometimes I call them the brand police, to make sure that all of us aren't taking liberties with our beautiful logo. But but at the end of the day, it's something that we're proud. Every day there's two things that kind of happen, and then I want to talk about an out of home experience that we have that we're also very proud of. We have two things. Everybody has swag. And everybody, like, working remotely, everybody wears their t-shirts. I mean, maybe not every day, but I will tell you, every single day there is a huge group of people who wear their Too Proud t-shirts. Well, I didn't today because A, it didn't match my jacket, but B, I also didn't want to be overly logoed, right? Because, I do have it. I do have it everywhere. Right?
I love that.
I am an ambassador of our brand, but I think there's so much, there's incredible increasing pride of the work that we're doing in the company that we work with and for. The other is this background. So about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, we made a decision to say, hey, everybody, have a background. Like, give yourself some freedom to not have to worry about what's going on behind you. Right. And I also, kind of selfishly, from a brand standpoint, I was like, our brand's going to be out there. Like, these are more impressions that we can get. And we have tons of creativity in the way that we're bringing forward our backgrounds. And what's even more exciting is the fact that people are, and I'm going to show you one that's very timely. People are gravitating toward these. And so we have every month that there's a celebration or, heritage or history month, we develop these and we encourage our entire crew to use them. And, everybody's got the freedom to choose what they want when they want to, and in front of whom they feel most comfortable. But it's really a beautiful thing that this company has embraced. So that's a fun one. And then the last thing is, we have and I actually have a background, so this will be fun.
I love this. You're like the DJ right now.
I know.
What are you going to play now?
Background. So we also have, for those of you in LA, we also have a sign on the 405. And we now use that as a tool for us to not only, create exposure for our brand, but also celebrate the things and take and provide awareness for things that are important to us as a company. This one happens to be National Breast Care Awareness We have it right now. If you are in LA and you drive past the building, it is in, the flag colors,
I love it.
Celebrating Pride Month. And so, again, it's just, from that standpoint, is we're creating a culture that is, responding to the things that are important to our team members, but also making sure that we are purpose built, and, really meeting the needs of not only our team members or our crew members, but also of our customers and our users, whether they are the consumer or the dealer. So.
I love it. I know it's not like slapping your logo on a bunch of things and just kind of calling it a day.
Yeah. We take pride in where it lives, for sure.
I love it. So, I have a million other questions, but what are some of, in your tenure, what are you most proud about, and what are you most looking forward to in the coming years? I don't know how far you guys project out. I did have a question about goals, and so at a DTC brand, I would imagine that there's tremendous growth goals, and I forgot to ask you that question because I feel like it's a really interesting one. Do you think you could touch upon that, and then we can get to the proud moments and the future?
Yeah, it is really interesting because we've just recently, are going through and in the process of kind of exclamation pointing our second half goals. And, we have some pretty heavy duty goals ahead of us. And, we had a very deliberate discussion around that, over the last couple of weeks, and even yesterday morning with our executive team around help us understand, or help the organization understand what's the art and science behind this. And, there's definitely some science, and some of that is secret sauce. And some of this is art, and really pushing us as an organization forward in ways that are, I don't know, sometimes a little scary, maybe even, not something that we can achieve in full. But if we gave ourselves some really easy layup goals, then we're going to be patting ourselves on the back and really making just small incremental change, not this big game changing, industry changing, end goal. And I say end kind of loosely because we're never going to hit it, right? Yeah, it's going to be ever evolving and growing and, creating a little bit, more discomfort for all of us, but in a way that helps us, or helps motivate us. And it not be, here's another 50 or here's another 100, let's go for thousands and tens of thousands and, really starting to move that needle and giving people the permission to really think differently on how to achieve some of these things that are a little scary.
I mean, it's when you know that your product is providing value and you can start to scale that beyond where you are right now. And then, there's a value, and then I forgot what I was going to say, but I think collaboratively, knowing that there's these massive growth goals, I think you're in a good place. You're in a good space. It's better than some other organizations that have a lot of other issues at this, current juncture. So it's good.
I mean, we're evolving. So new things come forward on the regular. On the daily, right? We're always addressing new things and thinking about new things, and kind of testing. We're very, we do focus a lot on testing to make sure that we're not just going out there with our gut, but gut kind of still has a little bit to do with it, right? There's a strong group of us internally who, and hopefully the entire organization, who believes in what we're doing at such an intense level. That, I think with that type of intensity and that type of motivation, there's no way you can stop us.
I love it. That's actually a great ending. Are we at time?
I love the motion theme. Nothing can stop us. We're so far.
Cue the song, whatever that song
right.
Oh, that was terrific. Thank you so much. And yes, it was the perfect wrap up. So I really want to thank both Beth Mock of TrueCar and Val Vespa of Outfront Media. What I loved about it is that you said that, you know, consumers really expect full service and mobility. So what's holding us back from delivering that? Nothing. Listen to dealers, listen to consumers, and go.
That's right. I'll leave you with this. Part of our internal motivation is, and it was just coined internally about a year ago, and now it's really catching it. Even in our Slacks, we've got, like, you know, the little emoji and all that kind of stuff. And we also have this. It's a card that was sent to our executive team, and we use in so many presentations, whether it's board meetings or internal meetings, but it really helps drive and keep that, like, energy toward this. You know, gosh, we have no idea where the road is going to end. If it does, it's never going to end, right? So, like, let's go. And you know,
let's go.
Yeah. And our CEO is one who helps really drive that home for us. And again, super exciting to be at this stage, and, you know, ask us in 6 months to a year where we are. And I know the momentum will be strong and the energy will be even more intense. So thanks again for having me.
Thanks so much.
Thank you both. And on that theme of what's driving us and let's go, it's time to introduce our next session. And this is actually a perfect segue, because next up we have Lydia Boychuk of More Labs. And More Labs helped me sleep well last night and get me ready to go today, but that's another story. And their moderator is Katie Wilson of Tap On It, and they will have everyone leaning in for good scoop. So with that, I really want to welcome you two. It's nice to see you again, Lydia, and hello, Katie. I'll let you guys take it away.
All right. Hello. Hi, Lydia. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Katie.
All right. Well, we are so excited to be here talking with you today. I had so much fun getting to talk to you last week and learning more about More Labs and everything that you guys have going on. So I'm sure that we will kind of recreate that conversation that we had, and everybody's going to learn a ton. So, you know, just looking through all of the things that we talked about before we get too deep into anything, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and about More Labs in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the CPG marketing space for a little over 15 years. I started my career in sales, but always knew that I wanted to transition into marketing because I love really understanding consumers, what their unmet needs are, what their motivations are, what their desires are, and really crafting communication and storytelling or products around those needs and really delighting them throughout their user journey. And so really started in the beauty space early in my career. And then about 5 years ago, wanted to make a transition, loved beauty, loved how dynamic and fast paced that industry is, but was looking to make a little bit of a change in my career and moved into the health and wellness space because, you know, as I looked at a lot of Nielsen and IRI data, I saw that category was really on fire. And then from a personal perspective, I have a huge passion for the health and wellness space. So really wanted to marry my professional and personal passions and came into the health and wellness space and worked for one of the leading vitamin and supplement brands in the US. Learned a ton from an R&D perspective, from an innovation perspective, and from a regulatory perspective. It was a much different playing field than cosmetics with a lot of rules and regulations. And so had an amazing experience there. And one of the things that I did throughout my career was always raise my hand for new and different experiences. And at this brand, one of the big, initiatives that we were trying to take on was how do we become more digitally native? And so I led a department, a newly created department, and built out the e-commerce capabilities for that brand and allowed them to unlock, new and untapped growth. So I always wanted to really get into the digital space because I knew, I was watching a lot of my friends in DTC spaces and they were having a great time working on smaller brands that were really dynamic, fast-paced. And that was something that I wanted to really learn throughout my career. So I took all of that learning and then joined More Labs about 6 months ago as the VP of Marketing, really leading everything from brand to innovation to all of e-commerce and performance marketing, insights, and design. So it's been a really amazing journey, and I love sinking my teeth into the performance and DTC aspect of brands, because I think there's so much you can do, and there's so much, there's a huge impact that you can make just utilizing data and making sure that you're always testing and learning new things.
Sure. Wow. That sounds like it's been a really fun career too. So More Labs clearly is lucky to have you. So tell us a little bit about the product. Tell us about More Labs. Tell us about morning recovery. I'm sure that there are people who are listening or watching that maybe are not familiar. I was lucky because I knew about some of these products before we even got on the phone, but then learned so much more. So tell us, about the products and where did this whole thing come from?
Yeah, so I'll start with who More Labs is. More Labs is a dietary supplement brand, and we really make innovative functional shots to eliminate the daily stressors that people face in their day-to-day lives. And so these formulas are highly scientific, and they're really made to help consumers get more out of life. No pun intended, but that was really kind of the genesis and the birth around More Labs. And it all started when Si-Sun Lee, our founder, in 2016, he was born in Korea and then emigrated to Canada and wanted to visit Korea as an adult. So he took some time off from his then job at Tesla, took a little bit of a sabbatical, went to Korea to explore the country, met up with some friends, had a few late nights out, and they ended up stumbling into kind of a corner convenience store. And his friends had told him about all of these tonics and elixirs that really help eliminate hangovers. And he's like, I have to give this a shot. He's like, I've never heard of anything like this. And so he and his friends, took a little bit of a shot, went to bed, and he claims he woke up the next morning feeling 110%. So as he traveled back to the US, he kind of scoured the internet, scoured stores to see if he could find this product, and he couldn't. And so he set out to create this product in the US and launch it. And so he was fortunate at the time to really launch it on Indiegogo and kind of crowdsource and get some funding and really understand from a proof of concept, does this product have legs? Is there a desire or product market fit? And within hours, the product sold out. And so he knew right there he had something really unique and special. And then worked with a lead scientist at USC to really hone in and develop the formulation, and really launch that in earnest in 2017. And, we've been on a ride ever since. So it's been great. And so in 2017, Morning Recovery, which is our hangover prevention drink, launched. Why it's so unique and special, I think there's an old wives' tale where all you need to do is drink a ton of water, and you'll feel fine the next day, or pop an aspirin, and that's actually false. Our product has a proprietary ingredient called DHM. And what it does is it allows your liver to metabolize alcohol faster, and get rid of those toxins. So you don't wake up feeling, getting that nausea, anxiety, headache, all of those symptoms that you experience when you have a hangover. And it has a lot of proprietary ingredients, but it has a mix of vitamins, electrolytes, milk thistle, and Korean red ginseng as well. And so that blend really does help eliminate hangovers. And we're so confident about it. We give a money back guarantee on our site. And we've also conducted a clinical on morning recovery. And so consumers who use morning recovery versus those who didn't felt 80% better on the top symptoms of hangovers. So headache, nausea, heart pounding, dizziness, etc. So we really truly feel like we have something special here. And we were the first brand to launch in the US, and we remain the #1 product in our category. So a great place to be. And the team's done a really outstanding job, really getting us to where we are today. And then we have 2 other products in our portfolio. One's called Liquid Focus and the other is Dreamwell. Those both launched in 2020. And so, when Si-Sun and the team saw how successful this one product was, they started to dive in and do a ton of research with consumers to really understand what are some other unmet needs that consumers have. And what they found was there was this huge untapped opportunity in energy and sleep, and and to really craft a product and a formula that's slightly different than some of the leading brands out there. So Liquid Focus is our energy drink. It helps kind of heighten focus and boost productivity. And it's made with nootropics. So it has a lot of really interesting ingredients. And, we kind of like to say it's a cleaner energy drink. And one of the benefits is you don't get the crash and jitters that you get with the traditional energy drinks on the market. And so that's a huge benefit for consumers. And then the third product is Dreamwell. And so that really helps. What we found was consumers were really having a hard time sleeping. And two of the root causes were just too much caffeine in your body still running through at night, and then stress and anxiety, which I think everyone can relate over the last few years. I think we've all experienced some of that. And so this formula really attacks those two things with formulas like lemon balm and jujube seed. And then there's an ingredient called Evodia rudicarpa, which actually detoxes your body of caffeine. So it's really, I love what the team's done with the formulas. They're highly intentional and they're so different than what you would find in a traditional supplement aisle. And so I think the team's done something really special here.
I feel like this is just, those three products are what every, working person needs. At any age though, but okay. So you're going to help me sleep well, make it so that I can go out for happy hour and not feel it the next day, and allow me to focus while I'm at work. Guess based on that, who is your target market? Who do you guys find purchasing your products the most, and where do you reach these people? Like, what's working well for you in marketing to get in front of the right people?
Yeah, spot on. So what we found is that the folks who really need us and that are loyal fans are kind of dual income parents, juggling two jobs, have kids in the household, higher income, and they tend to be work in corporate America or have a higher kind of corporate job. So folks across sales or finance, we know from the financial industry, people love Liquid Focus. So that product does really well with the financial investment community. But yeah, it's really what you just pointed out, people that have to perform and be at their peak performance on a day-to-day basis, right? Of course, you want to enjoy life and go out to happy hour, but you also need to be up early in the morning and make sure that you can take your calls and things like that. And so it's anyone that really just needs to perform. And so we tend to attract a millennial demographic and in a pretty high household income. And we really just want to kind of spread the word and delight as many people as possible, because we just want people to get more out of life. We want people to be able to perform, and they shouldn't have regrets because they want to go out and have fun with friends.
Oh, I love that. I think that's amazing. So you told me a little bit about the fact that now you guys are really getting more into brick and mortar businesses, right? Correct. You're in CVS, I think you said Walgreens. Yep. How's that going? And, starting out as a D2C brand, what was that whole transition like? Why did you feel that was where you guys also needed to be?
Yeah. So from a retail perspective, that is our focus right now, is how do we expand and get in as many doors as possible. So right now we're at about 27,000 stores. We have authorization across the US. And what that will really help and allow us to do is generate brand awareness, right? So people will start to recognize the product that they see wherever we have it within the planogram. So for morning recovery, we tend to make sure that we have placement in kind of the alcohol or spirits aisle, or checkout in convenience stores. And then Liquid Focus and Dreamwell and a lot of our natural grocery chains, we have that in the supplement aisle. And so retail is a huge focus for us. But to your point, we started in 2017 exclusively as a D2C brand. And in 2018, the team made the decision to move into Amazon, because Amazon's such a huge platform. And as a brand, how can you ignore those eyeballs, right? We know that so many people are going to Amazon to do product research, or, it's lower in the purchase funnel. And so
they're searching on Amazon instead of Google in a lot of cases.
Right? Yeah, there's so many product searches that start on Amazon. And so so, as a brand, the team made the decision to say we have to be on Amazon, right? It's from an acquisition perspective, it's slightly less than some of the traditional acquisition things that you can do to drive traffic to your site. So 2018 was Amazon, and then we also started to expand into retail. And what's really interesting and unique about our kind of portfolio is, our assortment is slightly different online versus in store. So in store, we sell single bottles. And what we hope is that we can generate that awareness, subsequent trial, and once people see that it works, because it does have a feedback loop, I think that's what's really unique about our products is you feel the difference, you feel it working. And I think that's a really important cue for consumers. So once they try that product, the hope is that they come back to our site, become loyal users, and purchase our 6-packs, 12-packs, or 24-packs because they want to use it themselves and create that habitual or daily regimen. But they also want to share it with friends when they have people over. And so we have seen success with, getting authorization in as many doors. And then that loyal user tends to come to our site and buy in bulk, which is great.
And do you see them going that direction, or do you see them mainly finding you on Amazon? I mean, and I would assume the goal is to get them to your website, right? To make the purchases from your site.
Yeah.
But what do you see happening after that first retail in-store purchase?
Yeah, so we do some post-purchase survey results, and we see from a retail perspective, it's all about convenience, right? So that immediacy, that I need to swing by the convenience store because I'm going to go to happy hour with colleagues, and so it's fantastic to be where consumers are. But we know we live in an omni-channel world, and we need to make sure that we're everywhere the consumer is, and so retail is just as important as e-commerce for us. And, the hope, to your point, Katie, is, how can we get some of these first-time, second-time purchasers to come to our site and become loyal subscribers? How do we make sure that we're increasing that AOV and LTV long-term? And then from an Amazon and Shopify perspective, we don't view Amazon as a threat. We don't view them as a competitor. We're not competing against ourselves. Amazon is a marketplace. So we're competing against all of the other brands that have come into this space, whether it's hangover prevention drinks, focus and productivity drinks, or sleep drinks. We really want to make sure that, we have a crack at that as well. And so we invest on Amazon because we feel like it's a fantastic marketplace, and that's where consumers are. And so that's
it totally makes sense to me. Do you see, if you had a crystal ball, do you see other D2C brands that are going to start placing things in retail to help drive awareness and then follow that similar path? Do you see that happening a lot now? Do you think that's going to become a bigger part of the strategy?
I think so. I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, a lot of D2C brands really kind of took a stand and said, I'll never sell on Amazon. I'll never sell in retail. And fast forward to today, you see so many D2C brands actually have their own brick and mortar, right? Because they understand that that's so important to drive that scale and drive that awareness. And, they've tapped out from a new user acquisition perspective, right? They've done everything that they can in their toolkit from an acquisition and retention perspective. So that's naturally the next step. So I absolutely believe, based on where brands are kind of in their maturation, I do believe that retail makes sense just because, what we just talked about, we live in an omni-channel world. And I think consumers, we need to make sure that we show up where consumers are. And we know they're shopping both online and at retail.
Which, I agree. You got to meet them where they are. You can't expect them to search you out if they don't know anything about you, right? So
absolutely.
What do you do for awareness and to drive new customer acquisition? What are you excited about? What do you feel like is working well? Obviously you don't have to give away all your secrets, but how's it going? And tell us.
Yeah, from an acquisition perspective, right, we cover all of the basics. So we're doing all of the things that a lot of performance and D2C brands are doing. So things like Facebook ads, paid social, paid search, making sure that we're defending our brand term, but also bidding on non-branded keywords, because we know consumers use Google or use Amazon, or Google more so, to ask questions, right? What's the best hangover drink out there? Or what can I do to cure a hangover? Or how do I focus better? So we want to make sure that we're really kind of bidding on strategic keywords on Google. But then also from an acquisition perspective, SEO is so important. And it's a place where we've been focusing because a few years ago, we had to completely sanitize our site. The FTC was really looking at us, and we needed to make sure that everything that we said on our site was compliant, and that there was data to really validate and back it up. And so we sanitized our site, and in turn lost, some traction from a keyword perspective and from a monthly traffic. So that's a huge focus for us in 2022, is how do we improve our on-page, off-page? So, we're doing all the things like technical SEO and off-page SEO and things like that. So I think we're doing all of kind of the traditional things that every D2C brand does, but we're also tapping into influencers. So influencers is a place that I saw work really well at my previous health and wellness company. It's a place where, consumers can tell their story in a really authentic way. And, I think there's a lot of trust and goodwill with influencers that consumers follow. And so, if you have some folks that you look up to from an influencer perspective, whether, it's from a cooking perspective or lifestyle or travel, you're really kind of turning to those folks because they're the experts in your eyes, and you really want to hear what they're talking about. And so we've really kind of doubled down on influencers. And invested in that space because we see that authenticity really come through. We see that storytelling opportunity with consumers really shine through. And we like to give influencers and content creators a little bit of liberty to really tell the story. So we don't really want to dictate what their story is or what their experience is with our products. We want them to truly share, how they feel when they use our products. And so we've seen influencers work really well for us. And then lastly, we're always looking to kind of new and emerging platforms. So one of the things that I think we've been really successful with is identifying emerging platforms and trying to be early adopters on those platforms.
Give us an example.
Yeah, so GoPuff. That's been a really great place for us. From a revenue perspective. So we got on there quite early, and we've seen success from a search perspective, really kind of bidding on branded keywords, non-branded keywords, and then doing some unique things around bidding on kind of, I would say, not competitive keywords, but keywords or brands that are in the alcohol space. And what we've seen is a lot of conversion there.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. Buy the vodka, I may as well put it right into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really allowed us, again, to generate some awareness, really kind of being placed next to some of those really well-known brands has helped us generate awareness. And we've seen just a ton of success with GoPuff, and they've been a great partner for us. We've been able to be featured in some sampling opportunities with them. They had kind of a GoPuff event for festival season in California. And so we were part of their goodie bag, if you will. And we were also able to sponsor and sample our Dreamwell product for the LA Marathon. And so it's just been a great experience for us. We show up on their feed organically too on Instagram. So we get shout outs once in a while, which is awesome because we believe that audience really aligns closely to our audience. And we've even seen our morning recovery bottle on some billboards in a few cities. So it's just been great to really get that awareness out there for the brand.
That's awesome. So, as you are bringing in these new customers, I know that when I went to your site, I signed up for your emails and I also signed up for your text messages. So it seems to me just an assumption would be that collecting your own first party data, zero party data is also pretty important.
Super important. Yeah. First party data is really king, right? And I think we saw that become truly a truth last year, right? With some of the changes in going cookieless, but first party data is so key because first and foremost, it allows us to really understand and be able to segment our data. Who are these folks? What are they interested in? From a purchase cycle perspective, how often are they purchasing? Do we have folks who only purchased on deal, or do we have folks who kind of come in and they're not price sensitive? So that's really important when we're segmenting our data. And it's really important too for us to do some outreach to really understand. So a perfect example is, we're developing a few concepts for new innovation. And who better to ask than the folks who love you today? So when we think about form expansion, we want to ask them, is this better or different than what you're using today? Do you see a different use case? And so it's just been great for us to be able to keep that connection and keep that relationship with our consumers, and really surprise and delight them. It's also an area where, folks who have purchased from us and who are loyal, they really get the first experience when it comes to innovation or any new flash sales. So it really benefits them as well, to kind of sign up for our newsletters or sign up for SMS, because in turn, we provide a value exchange. So I think that's important as a brand, is how do you provide value to consumers?
Yeah. Well, okay, so Tap On It obviously is a text marketing platform. So clearly we are a big fan of SMS, MMS.
Yes.
Tell us, how long ago did you guys put that in place? Is it something that, do you consider it, is it going well? What are your thoughts around messaging in general?
We love SMS, right? We believe it's the future of retention marketing, right? And so we believe that at some point it'll eclipse email for some brands, and it's an exciting space. It's a really kind of intimate and personalized space, SMS. And so you have to kind of tread lightly and be really intentional on how often you're sending and what you're sending. But we've seen huge success with SMS. Yeah. Our open rates are, 10x that of email, and our conversion rates as well. And so our audience is a little bit smaller from an SMS perspective, but the engagement that we see on SMS is huge. And so that's something that we're going to continue to focus on, of how do we continue to grow that list, and really build out the unique journeys and make sure that we have some of those flows set up like we do in email and SMS. That's a huge focus area that my team is spending some time kind of carving out.
When you're talking about like surveys or asking your customers, do you do that mainly through email? Do you use text to ask those questions and introduce products?
I hope one day we can get to a place of SMS, right, and text. Right now, it's primarily email, but I think we have so much ground to cover with SMS. We have so much opportunity, really, to build that platform out, because we're only kind of scratching the surface there, Katie. And so, kind of any tips or tricks you have, I'd love to connect. And
we are totally going to be connecting. Don't worry. We have so many ideas, especially after our team, looked at all of the products. I feel like we are your target market. So yes, we will be connecting for sure.
That's great.
The 10X, obviously that makes a big difference. I loved your statement that it's the future of retention marketing. I think that, the more personal you can get, it's better for the relationship between you and your consumers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we don't have a ton of time, so I want to make sure that we talk about some of the other things. First of all, is there anything new coming up, right? You've got these 3 products, and you might have given us a sneak peek into something new. Do you want to tell everyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 2020 was the last time we launched some new innovation. And since then, we've been doing some research with consumers to really understand, what are kind of their biggest pain points with the current portfolio we have today, and what does the future look like too? What are some other untapped opportunities that no one's delivering on? And so one of the pieces of feedback that we got for Morning Recovery was, gosh, I wish there was just a more palatable flavor, right? So the flavors that we have in our portfolio are lemon and lemon ginger. And so when you pull the data in kind of Nielsen IRI spins, and you look at the functional beverage category, really the top 3 flavors are orange, grape, or berry. And that's clearly missing from our portfolio. So we will be unveiling a new flavor, orange mango, which we're kind of coining the juiciest flavor of the summer. And so it's delicious. It's now my favorite. I'm excited to see what happens with consumers. I think they'll absolutely love the flavor. We were able to do an in-home use test with consumers, and we got amazing feedback and kind of thumbs up from consumers. So that's awesome. So that's launching in a few weeks here. And then we also kind of evaluated, are there any additional benefits that align well with morning recovery? And what we found is, especially in summer months, people were doing a lot of day drinking, right? So they were getting together with friends, picnics, what have you, feasting, right? Yeah. Or even in the fall, watching sports with friends. And people were supplementing, your big energy brands, right? They were shooting some of those bigger and well-known established energy drinks. And we said, why can't we just add some energy into morning recovery, right? The behavior exists. People are doing that. Why don't we formulate our product to include energy? So we're launching morning recovery with energy in a few weeks, and it's berry flavored. So really kind of tapping on, making sure that flavor profile it is really aligns with consumers' tastes, and making sure that we're including energy, which we know consumers are, using throughout the day as they're drinking with friends. And so we're pretty excited about those two new products that are about to launch in the next few weeks. And then our head of R&D is fantastic. He's done an amazing job kind of formulating across the board, and we have a couple of things in the pipe for next year. So we're excited about, kind of expanding the More Labs portfolio.
That's awesome. Well, it's fun to have some inside knowledge there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about just that customer relationship after the purchase. What do you do to make sure that you're retaining them? I mean, we always talk about the fact that there's 3 ways to grow a business, right? New customers, which is the most difficult,
Yep.
and then it's get your current customers to buy more or buy more frequently, or all of the above. So
Yep.
What do you do to make sure you're retaining and keeping people coming back?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of really kind of, would say, the traditional flow set up. So once a consumer comes and purchases for the first time a product on our site, we're following up with them right away. We're updating them throughout that journey to say, here's when your product's going to arrive. Your product arrived, and then following up with them if they're first-time users, after a few days, tell us what you think about the product. Let us know if there's any improvements that we can create. So it's really about keeping that connection and that open line of communication with consumers and checking in with them post-purchase experience. And then, if we have any new or exciting things down the pipe, whether it's promotions, really highlighting some of the key drinking holidays, or highlighting kind of from a seasonality perspective, sleep and energy, making sure that they're the first to really get those promotions, and they're the first to really learn about some of our new innovations. So really making sure that we're providing that value to the folks who have raised their hand and purchased from us. And so, I think it's been working well. And then, from time to time, doing some post-purchase surveys, really hearing from them in terms of, what's missing, what are some other challenges or stressors that you have in your life, what could make this product better. So it's really kind of doing some outreach and making sure that we're delivering and delighting on things that they're looking for.
Do you see it happening naturally, where they're starting maybe with morning recovery and then they start to really buy other products from you? Are you doing a lot of cross marketing to make sure that they can, really you're kind of fixing the whole day, right? All 24 hours.
That's the hope, right? We do see a lot of our sales, our first time users come in through morning recovery. It has a higher awareness around that product. And I think because, it works so well. I'm a user. I give it to my friends every time, friends have a party. They're like, can you please bring some morning recovery? And so, I think people who use it absolutely see the benefit. And, they slowly progress into our other products because they're getting that really strong feedback loop. And they're like, wow, if you guys are crushing it from this perspective, I would love to use Liquid Focus or, Dreamwell. And we're seeing that happen naturally. So it's absolutely about kind of giving them exposure to all of the solutions that we have within More Labs.
I love it. And I saw your red, white, and blue morning recovery for the holiday. That looked very cool. How has sales been for that?
I don't know if we can see it. It's
the background. There. Wait, perfect. So cute. So cute.
So what we like to say is red, white, and recovered.
I know we already ordered some, so we're ready for the holiday weekend. Yeah, I think the whole office has placed orders now. So I think that I'm trying to think what other pieces that really jumped out to me in our conversation, through the influencer marketing. Have you found more success with like macro, micro? I mean, is there a certain type of person you're looking to tell your story?
Yeah, we found a lot of success with micro and nano influencers. So folks who have a slightly smaller audience, they tend to have a much higher engagement rate. So the folks, who have 10, 50,000 followers, they tend to have a higher engagement rate. And I think they have a really loyal following. And so we try and create those partnerships and relationships with those micro and nano influencers. And we're doing it across the board. So, we're still doing it, advertising on Facebook. Instagram is a huge platform. And then getting into TikTok because, that's also the future of social marketing. And so we want to make sure that we're there. And it's a really unique platform and it's different from Instagram. And so that strategy, that content strategy has to really kind of be tailored to that platform. So getting in on TikTok and I think the team's been having a lot of fun just kind of connecting with content creators.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could do a lot of really cool stuff on TikTok. How do you keep on top of all of it though? I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can be putting your brand, obviously through social media, and then just your own retention marketing. And I mean, your traditional, like how are you guys handling all of that?
Yeah, it's tough, right? When you think about the media landscape for performance marketers, it's just so vast, right? To your point, there's so much you can be doing. So for us, it's about really kind of covering the bases, doing all the foundational things from a paid search, paid social, SEO perspective, making sure that the website's optimized from a CRO perspective, making sure that, when we are generating, prospecting and generating leads to come to our site, that it's an optimized experience and that funnel makes sense. And so really kind of making sure that the foundation is taken care of is first and foremost. And then I think it's really about placing your bets because to your point, we can't do everything. And so influencers is a place where, we absolutely have seen a lot of success. And so that's where we're doubling down and then exploring kind of new avenues. So podcasts. Love the podcast space. I think it's
really right target audience. Yeah,
absolutely. And so that's something that, we're looking to get into in a meaningful way. So we have a couple of great partnerships that we've had for the last few years, but looking to really expand in the podcast space, because again, I think storytelling is so important, especially for a unique product like this. Yeah. And, getting on some influential shows, getting some host reads of people who've actually used the products and can vouch for it in their own voice, I think is really important for our brand. And so it's just really about being choiceful, covering the bases, and then making a few big bets of where you think, your consumers and finding where your consumers are really.
Amazing. So, okay, let's go back to that crystal ball. Obviously, you guys have had to change a lot in the past 2.5 years. We all have, right? You're adapting to this crazy new world. What do you think is going to be coming in the next 5 years? I mean, again, where are you placing your bets?
Yeah, I think there's going to continue to be these emerging platforms. So there's going to continue to be competitors to GoPuff, right? Because I think through the pandemic, consumers have really loved the immediacy and convenience of delivery services. Right. And I think people are seeing the success that GoPuff has had. And so I think we're going to continue to see, different types of platforms emerge that deliver that convenience for consumers. So I think that's going to be a huge piece. I think social media is changing as we know it, right? And so TikTok's going to continue to grow. And so really making sure that you understand the go-to-market strategy on that, I think will be so important for consumers, right? And for D2C brands as well. And so I think that's going to change a lot. And then I think from a broader societal perspective, people are so much more in tune with health and wellness, right? Through the pandemic, I saw at my previous company how sales had skyrocketed and how time spent on website, people were reading articles. And so I think that's going to become, more important in people's lives. And I think we're positioned well to continue to deliver, new solutions to consumers. So I think all of those things will really kind of ramp up over the next few years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you guys produce a lot of content? I mean, do you try and give them other reasons besides just purchasing to come back to the site?
We do, yeah. And so that's kind of a huge effort that we have from an SEO perspective is how do we start to generate more blogs based on the keywords that consumers are looking for? And so I think content marketing is so important. And I think it's an underutilized and undervalued part of the entire funnel. But, we know SEO is really important to brands. And so answering those questions that we know consumers have, I think is going to be important. And getting some of that traffic organically to your site is great because, right, CPMs aren't going to get less expensive. So acquisition costs are going to continue to rise. And so it's a really nice complement to be able to create that content and not have to pay exorbitant rates.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think content is king or queen. I mean, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that pretty much this has been fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity to have met you and look forward to talking to you again. Yeah, it's been fun. Any last words?
Yeah, I would say for those of you who are listening, visit morelabs.com. If you want to try our products, there's a discount code BRAND20 for those folks who are listening to this webinar. And you'll get 20% off of your purchase at morelabs.com. Again, use BRAND20.
Just in time for the holiday.
Spoken like a true marketer. Perfect call to action. That was terrific. Oh, Lydia, Katie, thank you so much. I had to jump in because, in full disclosure, you can hear how well-spoken Lydia is. And I'm going to put her on a forthcoming podcast from Brand Innovators since she is a lover of podcasts, and so am I. How could we not do that? There was so much great meat in this. I am looking forward to playing this over and over again on our Brand Innovators YouTube channel. I know, Katie, that you were thrilled that she is an SMS fan. You'll provide tips and tricks for her from Tap on It. This was like the love will keep on going from More Labs. Thank you both so much.
More to come.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Well, next up, let's see if Gina Harvey, who is the SVP of Marketing at Tonal, and their moderator, Eric Ashworth, who heads up Quad Agency Solutions. I have a feeling they'll be able to live up to as much meat as we had in our last session. So with that, I'll welcome both of you. Hi, Eric and Gina. We want to make sure your mic is on. That's perfect. Take it away, you guys. I'm looking forward to leaning in.
So far, technology is our friend, and I'd like to welcome everyone today. Super excited to spend some time speaking with Gina Hardy, who is SVP at Tonal. She'll give us a great background on the equipment and what she's doing in that world, which is in a preliminary conversation has just been not only enlightening, but I think it's going to be an interesting journey for us to all hear about. And I'm Eric Ashworth. I am president of Agency Solutions at Quad, and we work in depth with a lot of different direct-to-consumer companies. So it's great to have the opportunity to speak with you, Gina, and couldn't be more excited about the content we're about to review. Given the diversity of your background and what you're doing today, which is obviously pretty exciting, I think it'd be helpful for the audience to hear about how you got to the role you're in. You're in a pretty cool, dynamic spot right now. What was the journey like getting there and the brands you worked with?
Yeah, I think I've been pretty lucky that I've worked with some pretty awesome mega brands along the way. I actually started off in data and analytics, which I think was really important to what now has become an important part of my job, is understanding marketing and really what's driving our performance. But I spent a majority of my career working at Gatorade, over a decade there, really learning my brand building chops, really understanding, the CPG marketing engine, which I think is such a foundational element of your marketing career. So about 10 years managing different marketing programs within Gatorade. Also managed the Propel business for a while I was there. Actually have my Propel right here, so still a fan of the brand. And then moved on and spent a couple years at Red Bull. So interestingly, went from one creator brand, Gatorade, who established sports drinks, to Red Bull, which established energy drinks. And so there was a lot of learning that happened during those years in managing different marketing programs, which is why it's been so interesting sort of swinging over into the tech world into a D2C brand. It's a different ball game. And I think a lot of the things I'm bringing to the table from a more traditional brand building experience are applying, but then I'm also learning a ton of new things as I've been here for over a year.
And you mentioned that you're jumping over in sort of the tech world. Why don't we dig in a little bit to what Tonal really is? Because I think a lot of the audience probably is aware of it, and a lot of it might not be. Mm-hmm. Can you give like just a quick background of what Tonal is? And I'm going to try to share a video of it. We'll see if it works or not, if the technology gods are liking us. But just a real quick overview of how you'd explain it to someone in a 15-second elevator pitch, and then I'll try to throw a video up here for everyone.
Yeah, Tonal, for lack of a better term, is a very smart home gym and a personal trainer in your home. It uses digital weights, which is not something I think many have ever seen before. It's fueled by magnets and electricity, essentially. It's able to deliver up to 200 pounds of resistance on basically what is the size of a flat screen television on your wall. So you can replace an entire gym's worth of equipment in one piece of material on your wall, which is pretty amazing. So you can get a full body workout. I think the most amazing thing is you take 1 5-minute strength assessment and Tonal sets all the weight for you over 200 pounds. And it adapts in real time. I wasn't aware of that until I actually got my Tonal, where I saw that it would adjust and give me more weight, sometimes before I was even ready to take it on myself. But then I would surprise myself and see, I can totally lift this weight. And I think that's what's really important, is because it pushes you much like a personal trainer would. I would probably use the same dumbbells until I die, to be honest. I never really was picking up the heavier weight, and Tonal pushes you and makes you stronger. And I actually just reached my 50% stronger milestone myself over the past year. So it's pushing me. And I think that's what's beautiful about it.
All right, so let me share this. I think we've got an MP4 all queued up. We'll give it a shot. And if for some reason it doesn't work, we'll jump back in and just verbally describe it a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Because I even have some actual questions. So I'm going to do a real quick screen share here. Gina, I'm looking at you if everything's going to play all right.
What does the future of strength look like? It's a personal trainer that assesses your strength and adds weight as you progress. It's dynamic weight that adjusts for you in real time for a more efficient workout. And it's a roster of coaches that motivates you to get stronger, faster. The future is strength you can feel and results you can see, and you can only experience it on Tonal.
So the thing that I'm taking away from it, being a bit of a home gym guy myself, is this: it's really the concept around a different way to think of training, right? It's not just a replacement for the gym, but because of the technology that you've embedded and the way that you guys coordinate that with workouts and almost a different way of reestablishing personal goals, you've essentially created a whole new perspective on what working out and being fit means. At least that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's right. The AI component of it is pretty bananas if you think about it. I mean, the fact that when I now look at weight racks and I think how Tonal is revolutionizing that exact thing, it can replace all of that. And so I think the progress tracking is important. You know, you can see yourself getting stronger. And I don't even think that's something a personal trainer can necessarily offer. You can't tell you you've gotten 50% stronger necessarily. Right. So, and I think that is part of the challenge. And one thing that I thought was really exciting joining Tonal was, as a marketer, we were often under delivering. People would get Tonal and say, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. And usually sometimes as a marketer, you're over promising. And I think we have the challenge of trying to bottle up in a very short amount of time the magic of this product. And it's not like anything you've ever seen or used before. And so therein lies the challenge.
Yeah. And one of the things that we are consistent in speaking to our D2C clients about is you've got to keep everything simple, right? Both the messaging, the engagement, the product experience, the benefit set, the RTBs, all of it has got to be simple. And I think the way that you have done that thematically from the messaging, even the product itself, you have one right behind you. Can you possibly share that, or is that going to get blurred out? Right. So for all the audience, like, look how simple that is. It's actually an elegant, almost piece of art that within, I don't know, a couple of seconds transforms into a very high-tech, a new way to think about working out and physical fitness. So the simpleness of it sort of threads through, and it's definitely one of the themes that we talk to all the DTC companies about. And if you watch, at least I feel, if you look at the ones that have been able to find success extremely quickly, it's been about really simplifying a lot of the traditional marketing elements, because it's a more complex channel to sell through. And can we talk about that for a second? I get when you've got a physical product that people are familiar with. So you've got Allbirds, which is a different take on shoes, right? Or you've got Dollar Shave Club, which is a different take on razor blades. So it's the concept of a product that people currently understand, just reformatted in a way that the benefit set makes it interesting. So people are going to give it a trial and hopefully they get repeat. Walk us through how you have a product that is not only a complement or similar to what people have historically done, but you're basically graduating in a new area of benefit for consumers. And then you had the tough task of really trying to accelerate the sell of it into the last 2 years, which of course everyone's kind of cocooning, which could have been really helpful, but might have been detrimental. So can you walk us through how you've been positioning the brand and marketing it over the last couple of years and dealing with the challenges of communicating something that I would imagine people want to feel and touch before they purchase?
Yeah, there's a number of different challenges that we face. One is we are a very high involvement purchase. You know, in my days of Gatorade, you only had about $1.50 to lose. You would try out a new flavor. It was easier to get trial. When you talk about a high involvement purchase like Tonal, there's a lot more involvement there. There's a lot more touch points that people have along the way to make that decision. And that is why we spend so much time thinking about not only the push, but the pull. And what I mean by that is the push is definitely having very coordinated, a symphony of the funnel, right? So understanding what I need to tell you and when, as you go through. And you hit it earlier, but you can't overwhelm people with too many messages. And when you have a product as complex as Tonal, there's a lot I want to tell you, which is really exciting, but there's only so much one person can ingest at one time. And so we've spent a lot of time on our communication hierarchy. We've spent a lot of time talking to our prospects and understanding, why would this be beneficial to you? And we have the added complexity of, this is actually beneficial for beginners and for people who've been weightlifting or working out for many years. For beginners, Tonal takes the guesswork out of something that's very complicated. For if you're very experienced, it pushes you more than you would yourself. So then what I'm alluding to is we also have the complexity of personalization along that funnel, because one size fits all messaging doesn't necessarily work because people are looking for different benefits. And so where we've sort of netted out is a full funnel connected strategy. One is just to drive simple awareness, really dive into storytelling and intrigue. And then as we bring you through personalized messaging in snackable formats, there's only so much I can tell you at one time. So we spend a lot of time with consumers understanding that hierarchy, understanding how we string it together to get you to purchase. And ultimately, you mentioned this, but touch is important. And so where we can, driving you to our stores or to our Nordstrom location so you can feel the product really is important, because we have high conversion. Once somebody tries it, it's like they've never experienced it before. And that's important, but we don't always have that luxury. And so that's something that we think about quite often.
And on the top of it, you guys have obviously done, I think, an excellent job, and it threads right into your past, right? I think you call it athlete activation.
Mhm.
So the concept of celebrity endorsement of the big name athletes you have, like LeBron and Serena, walk us through their experiences, but also how do they fit into the funnel, and where are you looking more for them to from an awareness or conversion? Because this concept of high involvement, needing high confidence in order to sort of make that magical purchase happen. And is this, I would assume the celebrity endorsement accelerates the confidence in the product, or the ability, at least for you guys, to move quickly towards trial, knowing that such high caliber athletes like LeBron and Serena are such active endorsers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned kind of transitioning into the D2C world is, and for newer brands, I think is another thing. It's not just D2C, but it's newer brands. In my former world, coming from a brand that's 50, 30 years old, established a category, trust is implied in a way. You're benefiting as a marketer for, who I am, I've been around, I have some credibility. Now let's just move on from there. And coming to a newer brand, and particularly one that's such a high involvement purchase, trust is really important to establish very soon. Who are you? Are you going to be around in a year? How do I know if this works? And the great thing about Tonal is, even when I came in, we already had a ton of athletes that were already using the product, and their trainers were calling us and asking for the product. So it wasn't necessarily hard to kind of tap into some of that usage that was already happening. And as we set out, yes, athletes are an important way to help establish that trust, and showing that authentic usage is no different than my days at Gatorade on the sidelines and being used on the sidelines authentically. So it's very important for us to tell those stories. And I think going in, the hypothesis was that something like a LeBron or Serena would help with brand awareness. And we proved that out. It did. We had a campaign with Serena and we had a campaign with LeBron. We saw a significant increase in our brand awareness, I think. But what was also interesting is it also assisted in the lower funnel aspects, in that it was driving very quality traffic to our website as well, where, sometimes we weren't seeing that in some other methods. So, initial hypothesis proven, helped with awareness, starting to help with a little bit of trust and credibility, but we know it's not just those kinds of endorsements. We also have to think about our community and the everyday people that are using our product. We just have a fanatical group of people who love Tonal, and they honestly are probably even more important to us in establishing our brand and pulling people through the funnel.
Can you talk about that? Because I think that's, from just the perspective of your general sort of marketing 101, you've got a very high involvement purchase. You're in an environment where people can't, during COVID, they can't come in and touch it, right? Because the physical environments weren't allowing for that. And it seems like, and I would say like a lot, to be honest, to a lot of quickly successful D2C companies, the user community becomes just a massive ally, right? So how have you activated that, and where does that sit in your funnel? Is it something that's, in the middle where people are saying, hey, this is great, go for it? Or do you find them going further in down to kind of the sort of, let's call it the last point of interaction might be with your community, and then people are purchasing? Like, are you, back to your data background, are you able to sort of track how that engagement is feeding conversion?
In a way, yes. I mean, I think to answer your first question, how are we activating it? Never underestimate the importance of a good community management team and system. We have an official Tonal community that, people are posting in there all the time, everything from how do I use my smart handles to what's your different custom workout that you're using. And we have a great community management team that keeps that community thriving, and they're always creating new programming and challenges for that group. And that's really important, because what we're also seeing is prospective buyers going into the community and asking, what do you all think about your Tonal? Do you like it? Do you still use it? One of the biggest challenges people have with buying at-home fitness equipment is they don't want it to turn into a clothing rack.
Right.
And so they're asking some of the older
A really
users.
expensive clothing rack.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But we have really high retention and our folks are still using Tonal years in. And these prospective buyers are coming in and asking. And one of the most common things we hear is, my only regret is I didn't buy it sooner. And so that's selling Tonal for you. And there's no better referral than the actual user. So I think those are actually probably more important to us than even celebrity or athlete endorsements.
And how, we didn't talk about this in our earlier conversation, but what are you guys doing around the customer engagement and content and evolution of your engagement with the customers through the content and the programming? Are you expecting, is there a roadmap for new workout regimes, or doing programs that go beyond the physical equipment of Tonal? Where do you see that evolving to over the next 2, 3, 4 years? Because I would imagine that's hypercritical in keeping your user base engaged, which of course then feeds your member community.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's different audiences, right, that use a product, and we're no different. Some people are really big into community when they work out, right? They want to feel like they're in a group fitness class. And so we, for that reason, launched Tonal Live, where you can actually work out with the instructor and they do the shout outs and more of that high engagement feel. But that's actually not for everybody. Not everybody wants that experience. Some people are more lone wolves, you know, they want to go in and just get the workout done and be very efficient. Other things we've seen are some people are training for a sport, you know, they're doing this for a specific reason. So we just launched Tonal golf workouts with Michelle Wee West. So you can actually work on different workouts that will help with your swing or your short game. And so we're thinking through these different audiences and use cases and really trying to create our content roadmap against that. Some people, you know, myself included, need quick workouts. I have 2 children. I need to get in and out. And so quick workouts we have with Tony Horton, really important for us to make sure that we're hitting on all these different needs and use cases.
And how are you tracking that with regards to customer usage? Are you actually you're able to glean what programs are followed, or how long the length of workouts for individuals, and then and then you compile that in some anonymous way, and that can help influence a content roadmap. Okay.
It's so great. I mean, we're just flush with data, and it makes my old data and analytics heart so happy. We can tell exactly if you skipped through the middle of a workout. We have feedback loops at the end of your workout for thumbs up, thumbs down. And so we can tell essentially, make more of this. Where is the long tail of usage coming, and make adjustments to the content that we offer on Tonal that way.
And is that finding its way into, wow, we found a much better fellowship of golf training. So maybe we want to go out and do campaigns for new users specifically in, you know, golf and I don't know, baseball, because of the sort of unique swing attributes of it. So it's actually influencing how you guys go to market on the other side of it.
It does. I mean, that's obviously we had a lot of asks for golf type content, but then what we did was make that into a campaign and then put that on the paid atmosphere to see, is that successful in bringing in new prospects? Obviously a smaller audience versus some other things, but yeah, it definitely is a full loop from usage on Tonal to outward, you know, facing campaigns that we're putting into the market.
So you just brought up a really interesting point I think the audience might like. So you mentioned if when you wanted to go after the golf community a little bit more specifically, you launched a paid campaign. So walk us through how if you did, you know, there was a new member community, let's say it's bikers or it's ballerinas or something else. Walk me through how you guys currently target those new audiences, and how different is that when you were, because that's D2C and it's a very different tactic and strategy versus how you used to go after new targets or segments when you were working on big brands like Gatorade and Red Bull.
Oh yeah. In big brands at Gatorade and Red Bull, you know, we didn't have that closed loop of performance, right? We would create our big campaigns, we'd put them out in the world. And then a quarter later, literally sometimes half a year later, we would get our marketing mix results back, and then we would make adjustments from there. In this world, I get results weekly, daily even, and understand exactly where the richest pools are, and we can make adjustments based on that. So I think that's been the biggest difference for me, is going from that sort of longer lead time, longer metric time, to right now we're able to kind of make adjustments on the dime. What that's meant is that we've needed to set ourselves up internally very differently than what I'm used to. So we need a lot of agility on our internal creative team to make adjustments to creative very fast, so that we can put something back out into the paid atmosphere, see what's working, make adjustments. It's just a very different world, kind of trying to understand what's working in the algorithm versus a consumer-backed approach where you put a piece of creative out in the world and understand, what your branding and breakthrough was. This is based on algorithm performance. And so it's just the agility that's needed to work in this kind of business is very different than where I came from.
So walk us through that. Walk us through with the ability to have more, let's just call it accurate attribution versus kind of smoke and mirrors attribution on big brands, because there's so much spend that's it's brand advertising, and you don't know the influence of that. You just know it's influential, right? Walk us through how you balance between less performance-based spends, right? So bigger campaign, bigger, what I would call more traditional brand, where there isn't a do this, get that type reaction to it, right? A click through or some sort of purchase signal. And do you balance it that way? Do you think of a brand spend where it's not going to be as performance-based and then attributable to actual purchase? And as you do have your performance marketing spends and more, what falls under the definition of paid now, are you allowing influence of that brand spend to say, look, yes, there was a connection between this performance spend and a purchase, but that was highly influenced by all this other brand work we did because we are so expensive, and people obviously need, I don't know, 2 to 3 times more touches, if not 5 to 10 times more touches than buying a razor blade or a pair of shoes. Like, how does that work at Tonal?
It's a balance, and one that I think coming in from a brand where we didn't necessarily have, instant gratification on what's driving what, it was something that I definitely had to help people get comfortable with as I came over. So we were very performance marketing based, and we still are, as we should. But during my time here, we also made some big bets on things like linear television. And so we had a campaign with LeBron James that we put out on linear. We aired it during the Lakers game when he was playing, and actually it crashed our website, which is not great. We had to make some adjustments on the back end based on that. But I think what that showed, some of the folks on this end, is that you can get direct response from things like linear television. And so, but obviously there's a balance there. And so we're running a very balanced media mix at the moment, where we have tried some of the more traditional levers. You just have to essentially try and rethink your attribution model and how long you allow action to take, because it's not instantaneous necessarily. And balancing that with the more traditional performance marketing levers that we continue to pull. We have a lot of paid social focus, obviously, because we're able to target. And I mentioned earlier, personalization of messages. So that balance has really, I think, worked for us in the short run, but we're honestly still tinkering and trying to figure out what's right.
Yeah. And how deep are you guys into sort of the next gen connections of online, offline, right? Because to your point, some of the traditional linear media types still can work extremely well. But the ability to connect a linear experience with, some form of mobile engagement, and whether that's through next gen QR codes or whether that's through other forms of media that are better at delivering the depth that we need in a high involvement purchase like yours, you've got to have some depth, right? And are you looking at other ways of offline that can add some of that depth there? Because that's an area, again, for direct consumer companies. We spend a lot of time with them on the whole concept of front door media and all that information that's now coming into your home through the front door. And how do we quickly allow that physical experience of whether it's a package or an envelope or a box, and quickly connect that back into a mobile experience through some form of engagement, so that that engagement can be tracked and it's not something that's out there in the ether and you have to speculate about. But as soon as we can get people to actually engage their mobile device with an offline experience, you get another level of connection that you can dig into pretty quickly. Do you find you're leaning in on that because you have so much content you need to deliver, or are you just hoping people go to the URL and they can get it all there?
I'd say so. I mean, everything is omni-channel for us these days. And that includes, the digital experience, that includes the non-digital experience, that includes actual physical touch as well. And so, as I mentioned earlier, tonal is something you need to physically touch. And so we have to connect understand the consumer journey and where, what are the different points of influence along the way, because not necessarily every point isn't necessarily the same. Like a referral from your friend has a lot bigger weight than potentially looking at a paid social ad, but that plays an important role. And so what we're finding is that in prospecting, those paid touches are very important, but then we sort of need to take it offline in a way. And so that's where things like our community and looking at community events and trying to do retail events and bringing people into the real world are very important, particularly for brands like ours that you need to touch, feel, see. It's not like something anybody's ever seen before. It's kind of like being the Tesla of fitness, right? So it's hard to describe until you see it. And so marrying all those things together, really important. And then of course, CRM, making sure that we continue to give you messages pre and post purchase, right, are very important for us. So it makes this coordinated symphony very important along the way on both the pre and post purchase side.
And how do you, now that things are opening up again, and let's all, fingers crossed that they stay open, what are you guys doing around modification of your plans to take advantage of in person? Should we start expecting you guys to show up at more events, more festivals, things that are appropriate for in-person engagement? Because just looking at the product and having touched one once, it's like you could set one up in a parking lot and people would freak out, right? Yeah, and you could just have people walking down the sidewalk. So I'm assuming your events calendar is starting to get pretty excited and active. And then if you don't mind me asking, and share this if you're comfortable, please don't if you're not. But what are you going to move away from in order to fund it, right? Because normally it's, if you're going to do this, you're going to do less of that. So where are you in the sort of activation side of it? Where can everyone expect to see you guys pop up? And then how are you paying for it?
Yeah, so I think your inclination is correct in that that's our next focus, is bringing real life events. Experiential, I know, has been on the back burner for many for the last couple of years due to COVID, which is a shame. I know, having worked in fitness before, the fitness community is definitely a ground up community. It's one where, you think about boutique fitness. It's one where just people love to circle around that, and these tribes kind of form around it. And we're no different. And so you can see from us coming forward, yes, that's definitely a focus for us: events, experiential, either in our stores or outside. And then how do we fund something like that? I've done this before. I've made a concerted effort to take things out of maybe paid advertising and put those into the high touch areas. And that's important because for us, we have really high conversion once you try the product. So it's worth it.
Totally.
So if we have to make those hard decisions, those are the kinds of decisions that we're looking at. But I'm just glad that the world is somewhat opening back up again, and we have the opportunity to get back out there.
Well, and again, in a case like yours, high discretion normally brings along high involvement, and then a high comfort level of people engaging and giving information, and then allowing you to track back to, okay, this person probably saw this paid ad and engaged with us. Then we found them at the mobile at the event. And then there was a couple more touches before they converted. So the That's
Yep.
the one, the higher you go up the involvement spectrum, successful brands are capable of just gathering and gleaning those engagements and measuring them more specifically than, to your point earlier, if it's $1.50, well, I guess it's not anymore. It's probably like $2.50 or $2.25.
I don't know with inflation. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not going to be giving you their mobile number and wanting to get involved in the community. Because I think, one of the elements you mentioned earlier around privatization, one of the things that we're finding is that when you do have these active communities and you have very solid brands with a real RTB and that are about more than making money, right? They're about building communities that thrive, that the privacy concerns tend to wane a little bit. As long as those companies aren't obviously reselling the personal information, people are more than willing to give information into the communities if they continue to receive an appropriate amount of benefit from that engagement. And I would expect / hope that you guys are getting that out of your communities. It certainly sounds like it. And that's, again, that's kind of a cheat for you on the marketing side, is that once people see it, it's like, okay, I want to know what's going on here. Here's my information, make sure I get the latest stuff if I haven't made a purchase that could influence me to make a purchase.
Yeah, it is a cheat, but I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
Well, it's why you're there, right? If you didn't appreciate the product, a marketer like you wouldn't go to a company like that. So
it's true. No, it's true. And I think, our community is really important, but yeah, that is sort of the interesting piece on the D2C side, is the importance of data, capturing that data, but most importantly, giving a value exchange for it. And that's something we talk about quite a bit here. What is that value exchange that I can give you as a brand to make you want to engage with us? And I think we have a lot to offer in terms of taking the guesswork out of something that's really complicated and really hard. But it's definitely a focus for us.
So on that point, can we push down a little bit deeper? You mentioned content earlier. So CPG days, you spend a lot of time identifying a target, you create personas, then you kind of map out how does this individual want to be engaged, and then you create a bunch of content, you do your linear stuff, and then to your point, you keep your fingers crossed, you throw some trade dollars out there, and you hope 3 to 6 months, it's doing what you thought it would do. And walk me through, you mentioned you have teams that are doing content now. So, I would imagine you had a big bevy of agencies on the big brand side, the CPG and Red Bull side, or excuse me, the Gatorade and Red Bull side. Are you keeping more, it sounds like you're keeping more content close to home, which we're finding with almost all D2Cs. And where do you start looking to agency services or third parties to execute? So how have you shifted your content production and then placement models now that you're, off big brand and into D2C?
Yeah. So we still utilize agencies for, our big brand storytelling moments, something like our LeBron James campaign.
More of the linear type, traditional big media stuff. Okay.
Exactly. Things that I'm very comfortable with from my old days. We still utilize agency partners for that, but on the more performance marketing side, a lot of that has to be done internally because it has to be so agile, and you have to change on a dime essentially. And you're almost like a scientist. I feel like a scientist, and I love it because it speaks to my art and love for art and science. And you're running experiments. When you have something that's as complicated to describe as tonal, you don't necessarily nail the first time exactly what right is, right? You're like, I think this is a good way to describe it, or I think this is a good way to show it. And there's a lot of different experimentation you have to do in show me versus tell me. And so you need that agility internally to sort of try a new way of showing something or telling something, put it out there, immediately getting a feedback loop and immediately trying another experiment. And so I find that part really fun. Maybe it's more mad scientist than it is marketer, but that's what's needed. It's much more agile. There's a lot more data involved, as I mentioned, and it happens a lot quicker than our 6-month, marketing mix model timeline.
Yeah, so you're using content response is almost like an immediate A/B test, right? So you're essentially floating different creatives, and whatever creative gets the best reaction, then that's what you're going to push to a bigger spend.
Yeah, That's correct. Yep. Learning from it, trying to reverse engineer why it maybe performed better, iterating, a lot of iterating. But it requires just a lot more agility than some of the traditional agency model will allow you.
Yeah, and done properly, it's just a far more efficient way to test creative than how creative was tested historically. It's just because you actually know if it's working or not, versus even if you're testing through online focus groups or forums, you've still got a speculation of if it's going to work or not. You actually know if it's working or not.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It dates me a little bit, but way back in the day, one of my agencies, we were responsible for those horrible pop-up ads. I don't even know if any people on the call know about pop-up ads, but we used to have them before you could dial in. And it was exactly the same thing. We'd run 5 to 6 different iterations of the same campaign across the nation, and whichever one had the best results in the morning, that's the one we kept running for the next 3 or 4 days, and then we'd move on. And it essentially, it works.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on this. What's the biggest surprise for you coming over from the brands into DTC? If there was 1 or 2 things you would tell folks that are listening in, that are on the big consumer packaged goods world, on some of the big brands, what were you expecting that, I don't want to say didn't happen, but what did you assume versus reality? And what are kind of the 2 or 3 learnings that were surprising to you when you got into your role at Tonal? Because Tonal was your first non-big brand job, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. I mean, besides my time in data and analytics, I've worked on mega brands. And I think one of the really great things that I found is that the brand building experience that you get from, like a CPG sort of brand is foundational. Coming over here, the things that I can bring to the table, and anyone looking to make that leap can bring, is your experience in brand building that soul. When you're building a brand, I say this all the time, it's like a person that really well. You know what they sound like, what they would do, what they would wear. And that's something that humanizing a piece of technology that is revolutionary but needs a soul is really, really fun and really cool to do. And so I think for folks with a more traditional background like that, that's what you bring. But then on the flip side, what you have to be comfortable with, or what you learn, is that you have to relinquish a little bit of control of that. The things that work aren't necessarily the things you hypothesized and predicted. Looking and seeing what kind of creative works in a performance marketing lens is very different than the process I would go through at a Gatorade, where you brief an agency and they would come up with this beautiful film. And so relinquishing some of that control, and it is something that you have to get comfortable with. But again, you get all that delicious data. So I think that part has been okay for me.
Well, and it's again, that's that give take, right? You're losing the access to the gigantic budgets, and to your point, kind of the fostered a brand that you were able to see on the big brands, but you've got a smaller, more nascent one you got to develop, but you have far richer data than certainly Gatorade or anyone else had when those brands were getting started. So
I'm a fan.
I hate that you guys have to give up control of this conversation now. Oh, it was terrific. Thank you so much. That was equal to, if not surpassing, our previous ones, as I anticipated. So Gina Hardy, thank you so much for being here from Tonal. Eric Ashworth from Quad Agency Solutions. It was amazing. And I think the combination of mad scientist and marketer is going to be my line for the day. So that's really the end of our day. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today and tuning in to another Brand Innovators live stream summit. Remember, #BI Summit. Big shout out to our speakers, our sponsors, and our audience. And be sure to check out Brand Innovators website to learn more about events like this and other upcoming summits. So have a great day.